One time. I can only say it once. It seems that Hiroshima is not done teaching us lessons yet, because look what happened. Welcome back to another beautiful, if not a bit chilly, day in Japan. Today's video is a little bit different than our normal videos. Usually we wake up and we are super excited to be where we are. Today, we've got some mixed feelings. We are in a city famous around the world, but maybe not for the right reasons. If you haven't guessed it already, today we are visiting Hiroshima.
We don't know what to expect. We haven't watched a lot of YouTube videos about Hiroshima or anything like that. We're going to go see the Peace Memorial Museum with about, 800 or 1,000 Japanese high school students to get some perspective. It is often said that history is defined by the victor, and this museum was an exception to that. The museum told the story of the locals here in Hiroshima, what life was like before the A-bomb was dropped, what it was like immediately after, and in the decades following, and how that amount of destruction was unleashed, along with untold amounts of human suffering. Although Hiroshima has since rebuilt, it's a thriving city with over 1 million residents, and it even affects the residents of Hiroshima today, as we heard from their stories. How did the museum make me feel, you might ask? It was challenging. There was a section of the museum that was extremely graphic. We've spared you from that. People really suffered. It was awful.
I'm trying to think of the words to describe what we just experienced. The museum does a really good job of taking you through what life was like in Hiroshima before a bomb leveled it, and then showing you the extremely destructive aftermath. And I find that words like sobering and emotional don't really do it justice when you're going through it and you're learning about what happened. Right here where we're literally standing. I'm just gonna cry my way through it. I told Bill I can only say this once. So we're just gonna cry our way through it together. At the beginning of the museum, they had this display that sort of showed a countdown. And as we showed at the beginning, we went in with all these kids. Most of them were high school age, some of them were a bit younger. I happened to be standing next to some of the younger kids. They were maybe my niece's age, maybe 11-ish. And they showed the bomb sort of coming down out of the sky. And then it hit Hiroshima. And all of this is on the display in front of us. And there were these two boys standing next to me. Again, 10 to 12 years old. And the bomb sort of hit, and then the whole display just sort of lights up. And the boy next to me visibly was surprised, and then he put his arm around his friend. As though to comfort his friend, but I think it was for himself. And that really made me wonder, was a grandparent, an aunt, or an uncle, a great-grandparent, what stories had the boy been told so that he was so visibly, shaken that he felt like he had to comfort whomever he was there with. Obviously, we weren't filming. We try not to capture kids like that. But clearly it affected me. I can't even talk about it without being a mess myself. Clearly now, generations later, it's still being felt by the kids who come here on field trips to learn about what their families went through at the time, even though they probably been told about it directly from parents and relatives. To see a kid affected like that while going through the museum sort of set the tone for me for the rest of the museum. And that was at the beginning. I knew I wouldn't be able to talk about this.
It's okay.
One time. I can only say it once. When we said we weren't excited about today, like we knew that this would be a hard day. Coming from America and visiting a site like this where our country caused this destruction, we aren't judge and jury about what happened here. It's not our intent to present this as being right or wrong. There are so many perspectives politically on whether this was needed, whether it was not needed. But the effects for the people who lived through this live on today, and that's what we are here to pay witness to and to respect the families that went through this. Well, we pulled ourselves together over lunch, which was quite good. And now we're at the Children's Peace Memorial. This memorial actually has a really unique history. A young girl at the age of 2 was exposed to radiation in Hiroshima when the bomb went off. And later she developed leukemia and other diseases. And while she was trying to recuperate and become better, she created origami cranes in the hospital. And it's believed in Japan that if you are able to create 1,000 origami cranes out of paper, that your wish will be granted. And she wished for nothing more than good health. Unfortunately, her wish did not come true and she passed away at the tender age of 12. Her classmates were so moved by her generous and open spirit in her life that they wanted to create a memorial to all the children who had passed away at Hiroshima. They started collecting money locally, and that expanded into a worldwide movement, and the children received over 3,000 donations from Japan schools and from around the world. And they used that money to build the memorial that you can see behind me.
We came here to learn about what happened to the city and to the people. Well, it turns out that about 10% of the victims were actually Korean. And so about 20,000 Koreans died here. Behind me is the monument to them. As we're walking around this park, we can see all sorts of monuments that are scattered about. It's a really nice park, very moving monuments. Most of them have good English descriptions, some don't, but we're mostly able to follow.
Well, there is definitely some rain coming in, but I guess that sort of feels fitting for today, doesn't it?
The building behind me is directly below where it's believed that the bomb was detonated, about 600 meters above where I'm standing. It's also become the main symbol of the city, and the city has decided to keep it in its current state and maintain it this way in order to keep it as a monument for us to recognize what happened on that fateful day. We're across the street here from the A-bomb dome, just maybe, I don't know, 200 feet away. So the bomb blasted directly above this neighborhood. I'm standing here next to a Jizoson, which is a garden deity statue, and what's interesting about it is it survived. But there's this shadow around the bottom of the statue where this base was not harmed by the atomic blast. As you move away from the statue, it smooths out where this was heated to 4,000 degrees for a tenth of a second. The day has given us rain, but it's also given us a rainbow right there.
It seems that Hiroshima is not done teaching us lessons yet, because look what happened. Yes, that is a stunning, stunning rainbow over the dome. Just beautiful. So I guess Hiroshima is trying to send us a message of hope and peace and rainbows. I'm listening. Yeah, it's still raining out a little bit. That rainbow is a beautiful, beautiful main rainbow with a second one behind it that probably wasn't very visible. Everybody stopped what they were doing so they could stop and witness this rainbow, which is absolutely beautiful. I ran to the other side of the bridge so I could take some photos of it. And I stole the camera from Bill. Absolutely beautiful. What a message. Even though we haven't watched any videos on YouTube about Hiroshima, we have searched for them. And almost all of them are top 5 things to do in Hiroshima and things to do in the area. We actually disagree with that. There's one reason and one reason only you should come to Hiroshima, and that's to visit this site and pay witness to those who passed away on that sad day in 1945 and the legacy that the generations that followed have had to bear. There are other things to do in this area, but come to Hiroshima for Hiroshima.